Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this tutorial, we will learn about Blazor. Blazor is good for single-page application front-end development, which use C# as a full stack. We can write front-end apps code with C# without depending on JavaScript as we would typically with React, jQuery, or Angular because Blazor will take the place of all of that. There is a documentation of Blazor. So like I said, with Blazor we can create rich interactive UI using C# instead of JavaScript. Although we still also can use JavaScript. And can share server-side and client-side apps logic written in .NET. Render the UI as HTML and CSS for web browser support, including mobile browser, and integrate with modern hosting platforms such as Docker and with Blazor for client-side web development. There's an advantage like write code in C# instead of JavaScript, which is we can produce more clean code, leverage the existing .NET ecosystem of .NET libraries, share app logic across server-side and client, and get performance, reliability, and security. And of course, stay productive with Visual Studio IDE on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. And with Blazor, we can build a common set of language, frameworks, and tools that are stable, feature-rich, and easy to use because this framework is supported by Microsoft. And by using Blazor, we can run the .NET code directly in the browser. The Blazor has ruined the monopoly of JavaScript on the point of view of full-stack developer, because using Blazor, developer not needs to upgrade with multiple programming skills. You can still use C# in backend and frontend with .NET framework. And the latest .NET framework is .NET 5 or ASP.NET Core 5.0. And with Blazor, the code is compiled in .NET language, so it's faster than the JavaScript code. With Blazor, we can share the validation code between the client and server app. Suppose we have applied validation logic on both sides, backend and front end. By using the Blazor, we can create a class library in the .NET standard and share it across client and server apps. And there is an example of Blazor code. This is the HTML section, and there is an C# code that replaces the JavaScript functionality. There is a render fragment, child contest, and string title can be pasted in here, the title and child content. And this is the function of C# code When we click on this button, then the console will read this line. Okay, let's get started of how to use the Blazor. The first, we need to install the Blazor SDK. You can download in this URL and click download. This is provided for cross-platform environment. If you use Windows, you can click here, or Linux or Mac OS. Just download the SDK and runtime. And this is the language: framework .NET 5, .NET Core 3.1, and .NET Standard. And the Blazor SDK already packed in Visual Studio, the Let's Visual Studio. Can download here, and it's already include Blazor. Let's open the Visual Studio Code. Turn on create a new project. Then choose Blazor apps. There is two kinds of Blazor: Blazor Server Apps and Blazor WebAssembly. In this tutorial, we will use Blazor WebAssembly because with Blazor WebAssembly, you can choose any kind of hosting environment. You can choose progressive web application for PWA apps, then create. And in here we use .NET 5 for the .NET framework. And this is the project structure of Blazor project. And of course we have program.js, we use C# and apps.razor. We still store the package. In a Blazor WebAssembly, we don't have startup.js in here. We use program.js. If you want add the service, we just need to type builder.service and the service itself. And this is the import Razor for executed globally. There is a main layout, the first component that executed if you run the application. There's a nav menu component and the body. This is the add page with indicated this is the body of Razor component. And there is counter and fetch data. This example of how to use the HTTP to fetch data. And this is the index HTML. We need to include CSS and JavaScript in here if you want to add any JavaScript or CSS. Let's try to run the project. This is the sample of changing the data after trigger of button click. This set of current count which have integer data type, and there is a function increment count. When we every click this button, the current count will increase by 1. And this is the example of passing parameter. Which is the title in here will be filled with parameter which has been set in here. This is the interface of sample project. In the counter, it's fetching data. This is the parameter which pass from here. Think it's enough the introduction of Blazor. I will give you another tutorial in next videos. If it's useful, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And if you have any requests about Blazor, please tell me in comment section.